We resume now with the first period of questions for ministers without notice, and the first minister is the Minister for Social Security. So far, no one's indicated a desire to ask any questions of this minister. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll get things rolling. Some time ago, sir, I asked the minister whether she would consider reviewing the disregard figure, which will enable islanders on income support perhaps to work a few more hours without receiving a financial penalty, and I wondered if she managed to give any thought to that. Thank you.
Minister.
I thank the Deputy for his question. The subject of disregards for income and assets will be part of my overall review this year. That's all I can say at the moment. We will be considering all of those aspects over the course of the year. Thank you.
Supplemental. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Following the announcement from the Jersey Homes Trust of increasing rent for many of their tenants, a proportion of whom will have their rent paid for by income support, has the Minister had any chance to analyse how much extra her department is likely to pay out as a result of those rent increases?
Minister.
No, sir, we haven't done that work. The department may have done, but I'm not aware as yet. Thank you.
Supplemental then? No. Deputy Feldman.
Thank you, sir. With reference to the Minister's answer to written question 87/2023, which contains information about a £23 million IT project which is being funded from the Social Security Fund, what work has she been doing with the Assistant Minister for Assistant Chief Minister with delegated responsibility for digital to ensure that the work being undertaken with that money fits within any overall government digital and technology strategy, and also doesn't repeat the mistakes that were referred to earlier with regard to other IT programmes?
I thank the Deputy for her question. I can't find the answer to question 87, but there is a political oversight group has been established. Deputy Curtis is a key member of that group, and they will be working both to design and develop that system which meets the needs of the department and the public going forward.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. In the answer to the written question, it suggested that if work undertaken on that project could be reused by other departments, then potentially other sources of funding might be made use of for that. What work has the Minister done with other ministers to ensure that work isn't duplicated across departments, and the work that is being undertaken within that project is giving the best possible value for money across government?
Thank you. Work is ongoing. I think at this stage the system is still in the design phase. We will be tendering for development over the course of this year. Design will be part of that, so that work is ongoing. We will need input from other departments, and that will be sought in due course, Revenue Jersey, because certainly we are trying to achieve a much more effective means of collecting contributions and tax. So we will certainly be working with Revenue Jersey. And then I think as we develop the system and see what the system is designed to do, it will be at the forefront of everybody's minds how it can be adapted to help to work to support other departments as well.
Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister inform members what progress has been made in terms of 0 hours contracts, and if none, will she say when we'd like to see any report from the economic?
Thank you, sir. I thought this was a subject of a written question this week or last week. The Employment Forum have been asked to conduct a review of Zero Hours contract. They will be reporting in Q1, so I'm expecting their report at the end of this, by the end of this month. I believe they are on track. And then once we have the Employment Forum's view and their analysis on Zero Hours contract, we will then in Q2 look to see what work is required in terms of legislative changes or adaptations to our systems of Zero Hours contract. The work is on track and in line with plan. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Sutton? Any other questions for Deputy Farnham?
In her capacity as chair of the newly formed Financial Services Committee, if that's the correct terminology, I wonder if the Minister could update the Assembly as to the progress since transfer functions, if that's allowed, so it's not directly related to her role as Minister for
I think
Social
the
Security.
Minister's before the Assembly to account for her portfolio, not necessarily, I think, for that. And there may well be another mechanism for providing that information. Any other member have a question for the Minister? Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. When was the last time that the Minister visited one of the venues where free period products are available for people to take as and when they need them? And can she give the Assembly assurance that there are enough products available of the right type for people to take enough that they need to last for a time, so that they don't have to visit that place on a daily basis?
Thank you, sir. I have not personally visited any of those venues for some time. The last time I was in the CLS offices, and there were some items available. I have to confess the stock wasn't huge, but there were some items there. The provision is in the case of need, so actually short-term immediate need, and for longer terms, the Deputy is quite right that we need to make sure there are sufficient stocks. I think when we have looked and found there are stocks have gone down, that indicates that people have done just as the Deputy suggests and have gone in and stocked up for a time. Work is ongoing. The pilot phase of the free period product exercise has completed. We are now doing some analysis on that to see what the take-up has been, what type of products have been most popular, and we will also be looking at the consultation. I do somewhere have a figure, but I won't try and find it. I believe we had something like almost 15,000 items were collected during that pilot phase. So we'll be going through the consultation. I'd like to say we had 800 responses to consultation, but I don't want to waste your time while I find it. But we have had a very sensible response to consultation, and we'll be using all that data to then develop the scheme going forward. And source of delivery is certainly something I can assure the Deputy that I'm very concerned about, making sure that we have that as effective as possible for individuals.
Supplemental question?
No, sir.
Any other question for this Minister? Conor Harbison-Brallard.
Thank you, sir. In questions to candidates for the scrutiny panel earlier, I asked their views on the provision of elderly care in the island. Would the Minister confirm that she considers the funding being provided to the elderly of the island for care, either at home or in residential homes, is sufficient to meet their needs at this time? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Constable for his question, sir. Long-term care is is one of my major projects for this year, looking into the long-term care scheme to see just that very issue. I think where an individual is in a care home, the benefit works well. I think it's less clear where people are being supported by domiciliary care providers. The domiciliary care sector was in its infancy when the long-term care scheme was launched, and that the home care sector has grown quite dramatically since then. So we will be conducting a market review of the domiciliary care providers to see how that mechanism is working and whether whether funding sufficient. I do think it is the case that our long-term care scheme is one that many other jurisdictions would envy. It is remarkably generous in some ways, particularly in terms of the assets that people can retain. But we do have a huge piece of work going on this year over long-term care, and it is absolutely a key priority for me for this year.
Supplemental, Bintab?
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister be able to give members an idea of how much of the domiciliary care is being provided by on-island versus off-island suppliers? Thank you, sir.
I don't think I don't have that data in front of me. I'm not sure that we would necessarily collect it. We may do, because it depends whether payments are made to the individuals or directly to the carers. I think off-island care is a relatively low proportion, because people have to be in the island to provide the care. Whether they're travelling in or out, I don't know. I'm aware there are some agencies bringing people in on a short-term basis, but that is not necessarily within the social security portfolio, the actual provision of care.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you. So in light of the ongoing high cost of living, can the Minister advise the Assembly as to when the complete review of benefits is to be expected? Thank you.
I thank the Deputy for his question. The initial benefit review has been conducted, and I've had several meetings with my team in the last 2 weeks to look at the outcome of that and to identify areas where we would like to make changes over the course of this year. We've identified quite a number of aspects, including, I've mentioned already, the asset and income disregards, but there are individual benefits that we do want to review. We will be trying to do that on a basis throughout the year. I'm not going to wait till the end of the year. We've identified a few things that we can do very quickly, and I'll be looking to do those things just as soon as I can. Other items will need to be scheduled, because I have to be cognisant both of the resources within the department to do additional work, because, as I've said, we do have some significant projects this year. And the happy fact, perhaps the outcome of the review, is that it means I want to increase a lot of benefits or rates. That will cost money. So we do also have to ensure that we have a sustainable funding for the various increases that I would like to make. That may be as little as increasing rates that haven't changed for some time, to just redoing certain benefits altogether. So it's very much on track. Thank you.
Supplemental question?
Yes, if I could just push the Minister slightly, and it's welcome news that progress is being made, but when actually can she estimate that she will be able to get support to those who desperately need it, so given the ongoing economic circumstances?
Thank you. We have many of the initiatives that were in the government's mini budget last year remain in place. So the community cost bonus remains open for claims. The parental support payment has not had the take-up that we hoped, but we extended the claim period for that to the end of March. So families with under 5 years residency can still just about have time to come forward and make a claim for that payment. The quick things we will do, for example, in terms of helping, I'm aware that home carers allowance, just for one example, at present, for example, if a family has one child who has a relatively significant disability at level P3, the parent may receive a home carers allowance for that child. If the parent has 2 children at P2, for whom the care needs may be even more significant than one child at P3, at present the parent will not receive home carers allowance, so we will be looking to amend that so that where a family is caring for two children with disabilities, that may come into 2 older relatives, we will give them home carers allowance. So that's one example. We will also just keep an eye on our benefits, and we will be asking the Employment Forum to review the minimum wage in the coming months from January, and we are also working on a new version of community cost bonus, which will come into play in the autumn of this year.
An extremely potentially quick question, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Has the Minister examined the Ethical Care Charter with a view to its application in Jersey?
I'm not aware that the Ethical Care Charter sits with me. I think I'm responsible for funding, but not the performance of the carers. I think that really sits with the Minister for Health and Social Services.
Well, I'm afraid that brings the period of questions to this Minister to an end. The next period is for the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Robboard.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, is the Minister responsible for signing off the payments for the 2 health staff leaving senior positions recently? Thank you, sir.
So no, the Deputy will be aware that the agreement required for any payments would first go to SEB, but he is also probably aware of findings of previous Controller and Auditor General's reports which say that they should be consulted upon with the Treasurer. So it does not need my agreement.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. At the last sitting, I asked the Minister for Infrastructure if he knew how much of the 28.5 million allocated in the government plan to the development of the revised modern multi-site healthcare facilities had been spent to date, sir. He didn't know. So could I ask the same question, please, to the Treasury Minister? Does he know how much to date has been spent? Thank you.
The Deputy will be pleased to know, not very much, sir. If he wants a detailed figure, then I am more than happy to provide it. But as he knows, when the Assembly took the decision that they did in the government plan, large amounts of that team were stood down. We are now recreating a team, or the Ministry is recreating a team, which is substantially less cost than was previously in place. So, of course, the money must be allocated in the budget, but very little has actually been spent to date.
Supplemental, yes.
Thank you, sir. I think I missed the actual amount, but the government plan actually did allocate 51.5 million. It's a lot of money to be spent on this a new scheme. Could the Treasury Minister just advise the Assembly now, so the exact amount, although it's small to date, that has been spent, and would he undertake to provide regular updates to the Assembly, I would say monthly, so, or at least bi-monthly, to keep members informed as of the expenditure we get through the year? Thank you.
Minister.
So whilst I enjoy these little tete-a-tetes in the Assembly with the Deputy, as I just said to him, so I'm more than happy to provide him with an update on spend to date, but it is in that regard very little. There will be a profile of spend throughout the course of the year. I don't think, sir, that it's in anybody's interest to provide a monthly update. And I don't see the argument for doing that, sir.
I did ask the Minister, I know it's a small amount, but does he know the amount?
Well, I mean, I think we must assume the Minister is not able to give you the specific amount now, but has undertaken to do so in the future. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. As the Minister responsible for public finances, is the Minister confident that the State's Employment Board has followed all necessary processes and procedures to ensure that unnecessary expenditure on payments to staff leaving the organisation are not made?
Did the Deputy mean to say are not made at the end of her question?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure what she's asking, other than to reiterate what I said in answer to Deputy Rob Ward, that as the Controller and Auditor General quite clearly pointed out, when the State's Employment Board, if indeed they are making additional payments outside of contract, then they are required to consult with the Treasurer to make sure that they are appropriate and that they are value for money. And I've got every confidence that the Treasurer is doing his job appropriately within the requirements of the Public Finances Law.
Supplemental.
Just to put some more clarity to that, as a minister around the table of the Council of Ministers, is he confident that his colleagues on the State's Employment Board have undertaken all necessary processes and procedures to avoid unnecessary payments?
I'm confident that they wouldn't do anything other than that, so yes.
Very well. Conrad Harbison-Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister tell us why the States of Jersey Development Company has changed its name to Jersey Development Company, and was it approved by the Minister as shareholder?
I know I'm getting a bit long in the teeth, sir, but I wasn't aware that they had, and I still refer to them as the States of Jersey Development Company. I'm not sure that any law change or change in this place has taken place. They may be as a point of, as companies do, sir, change their working title from time to time, but as far as this Assembly and the processes here are concerned, they are the States of Jersey Development Company.
Supplemental, Conrad?
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to hear the Minister acknowledge that. So I'd like to ask his view on the fact that the recent planning application submitted for the South Hill site, which was submitted by the Jersey Development Company on behalf of the government, what is his view on the fact that that application had just under 13% of the units at below required planning standards?
So I'm not sure whether the questioner was sitting on the panel when that decision was made. I don't think it's appropriate for us to get into an argument about planning panel decisions in this Assembly. I do concur with the Housing Minister that supply is an important element of dealing with the cost of housing. Equally, of course, this Assembly agrees the island plan. The Minister goes away and is currently consulting on minimum standards, and that to me seems to be the appropriate process. Not for me in my shareholding functions to second guess or criticise the planning panel who have legal obligations around the decision making that's expected of them.
Sir, if I may, the fact that I wasn't referring to the planning decision that was made last week. I'm referring to the fact that a government-owned company has submitted an application for development which falls below the current building standards, and 15% of those units are to be allocated to first-time buyer homes. My concern is that that 15% will include the substandard. So I would like the Minister to say whether or not he shares my concern.
I think as representative shareholder, that's a legitimate question for you, Minister.
So I'm being put rather in an impossible position when I know that government officials have recommended approval for an application, but members of this Assembly, as is their legitimate or lawful ability, have made a decision. I would, and I think this is why the Environment Minister is now consulting on minimum standards, because as a general policy position, the government would like to see larger units, but there are consequences to larger units, as the Housing Minister has said, and that is that they generally, as a general rule, cost more. And so we are trying to keep in tension those two elements.
Deputy Mayor Sake.
Thank you, sir. I had a planned question, but I'm going to scrap it so we can keep on this line, because the Minister simply hasn't answered the question that was put to him in the vein that the Constable intended it to. The planning application request from the SOJDC contained 13% of homes that fell beneath minimum standards. He, as shareholder representative, could, if he wanted to, say to that entity, I do not want you to propose any apartments that fall beneath those minimum standards. That's a separate matter to what the planning committee does or doesn't decide. Is he prepared to issue that instruction to this state-owned body that exists to pursue the aims that we set it, to produce homes that are actually fit for purpose to live in by the planning rules that this Assembly has created?
So we now are entering somewhere which you have ruled is perfectly legitimate, but I'm happy to go there. And I am happy to say, as a general rule, I think that government-owned entities should be complying with the minimum standards. But of course, in this instance, the States of Jersey Development Company had an application which was previously rejected by the then planning panel. They were instructed to go away and remove height from that building. There were consequences of making those decisions. There are consequences to developers, whether they're government-owned or not, of the decisions that the planning panel make. Perhaps it's a little bit difficult for members now to criticise SOJDC when they responded to the decisions of the then planning panel, and they will now have to respond to the planning decisions of the now planning panel. And I am prepared to work with them around trying to ensure that they do meet those minimum requirements, which may indeed be increasing. And if that's the case, we'll work on those as well. But there are consequences to housing supply, to the cost of housing, of the decisions of the planning panel, and we can't avoid that, sir.
Supplemental.
Thank you, sir. This is not about the Planning Applications Committee. This is about the instructions that he, as the shareholder representative, gives to this publicly owned developer. So will he take this as an opportunity, as that shareholder representative, to go into the offices of the SOJDC? I presume he's welcome there, given that it is the States of Jersey Development Company and not a private company, and say to them, now that this application has been rejected and you go back to the drawing board, you must come back with proposals in which not one single property should fall beneath the minimum space standards that this Assembly has approved.
Of course, sir, I'm more than happy to do that. Normally, the SOJDC would attend upon the minister, not the other way around. It's very important that these companies understand who it is that is the shareholder representative, and not that ministers are running around attendant upon them, rather the other way around. But let us be clear of the consequences of such decisions, which I'm happy to make on behalf of shareholder and this Assembly. No problem at all, sir. But we must hold intention. We must hold intention that space costs money, and that feeds directly into the cost of those units.
Deputy Sutton.
Is it the case that the Treasury and Resources Minister wishes to ignore our wish to create living spaces which are the right size to improve people's well-being and improve their health, because that's been proven before?
I'm not sure how the Deputy reaches that conclusion from the answer I just gave, which was that I would go back to the States of Jersey Development Company and say that the expectation of myself as shareholder representative and this Assembly is that they meet minimum standards.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton.
Is he prepared to go back in and say, meet greater standards?
So I don't know if you're enjoying this, but I certainly am.
You can tell by the frown on my face.
Yes, I think I can. As I've already said, sir, the Environment Minister is consulting upon increasing minimum standards. If that consultation says that minimum standards should be increased, then of course I will revert back to both of those arm's length bodies that are involved in providing housing. At least we hope they're both involved in providing housing. From some of the questions today, I suspect that some members don't want one of them to provide any houses, but we'll deal with that on another occasion, that they meet the minimum requirements that are expected by the Environment Minister and by this Assembly, and therefore by the shareholder. Thank you, sir.
I'm afraid there's only about 15 seconds to go, so that brings the period of questions to this Minister to an end. The next question period is for the Chief Minister. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. Members of the public can access the States Assembly website, and if they do that today, they will note that so far this year we've had 41 reports lodged under the report section. But for some reason, we've only had 11 propositions, and of those 11, only 6 are from government. Is the Deputy Chief Minister concerned about that statistic, sir?
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. I think when things are measured by numbers alone, then poor representation of reality can be gained. It is not the number of propositions by whether it's a non-executive members of the states or ministers that determines whether the States of Jersey is doing good work. It is the outcomes and the deliverables. And so government can deliver in many ways, not just by lodging propositions. Government can deliver by, first of all, writing strategies and then executing on those strategies. It can deliver by reorganisation, sir. It can deliver by funding other external organisations to deliver the government's wishes on the public's behalf. And that is the work that this government has been doing, and it has been working to deliver, sir. And we have seen that throughout the work of this government, starting with the mini-budget, sir, where we got to grips with and worked to help islanders with the cost of living. That's something that matters to islanders. It isn't necessarily something that always has to be brought before the Assembly. So, sir, I say it is not the numbers that matter, it's the delivery that counts.
Supplemental, Deputy? Conor Tarbison, sir.
Thank you, sir. Further to reports that the operating platform TikTok may be banned on States of Jersey devices or computers and servers for alleged data harvesting. Would the Minister update the Assembly on this and whether there are any other platforms that are under consideration? Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir, and a very topical question from the Connotab. And it is my understanding that following the UK government's decision to ban this particular application from government-issued phones, that the government itself, we have looked at the issue within the government of Jersey, but the decision has been taken at this time not to prohibit them from the phones. Principally, the matter is being assessed, and a prohibition may come in force in the future. But the government itself uses TikTok to communicate with islanders because, as the Connotab will know, there are many thousands of islanders, particularly young islanders, who use TikTok regularly. And therefore, it is a really important communication platform for the government when wishing to speak principally to young islanders. And as politicians, we all know how difficult it is to communicate with the younger people in our society. And so it is an important platform for that communication. So the government's assessing the situation, sir, and will continue to maintain an assessment of the way apps are used on government-issued phones, where that's the case, or government computers, because the government also, importantly, takes cybersecurity very, very seriously. And so we work with the United Kingdom government and its agencies to ensure that this island is secure from cyber attack in many ways. And so this is all work that's being undertaken at the moment.
Supplemental question? Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. I'm one of those young islanders that uses TikTok, and I find it very good. But my question is not actually about that, sir. My question is, sir, in relation to the resignations of 2 senior health staff, sir, is the Deputy Chief Minister satisfied that the State's Employment Board adhered to their own 6 codes of practice, particularly on performance and accountability and engagement with the employee during the process? Thank you.
So whilst I personally do not sit on the States Employment Board and so have not been privy to any meetings about this or any other meetings of the States Employment Board. I have no reason or cause to be concerned about the way the States Employment Board undertakes its activities, and I believe, and the Chief Minister, I believe, has full confidence in the States Employment Board to undertake its activities properly and in accordance with the proper processes.
Supplementary question?
So I thank the Deputy Chief Minister and wondered if he was aware of any possible future resignations that we could expect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And apart from my own, depending on the performance of this particular question time, I'm not aware of any, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Let's see if we can help. Apologies, sir. So, written question 270/2020 suggests the digital register of properties is complete and with ministers, and it will be shared with scrutiny panels. What has happened? Has this happened, and where are we with the digital register of properties? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I think, well, first of all, I thank the Deputy for his question, but I think it's a very good question because it's one I was asking just minutes ago, sir. Personally, I don't know, and so I will undertake to find out that information for the Deputy because I was asking that very question myself. So yes, I believe I need to go and find out.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir. Given that there are many ways for government to succeed, can we give a timescale as to when that will be found out? Thank you, sir.
I'll put that into the I don't know column as well, sir, but I will attempt to do it as quickly as possible, sir.
Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister was on record before Christmas saying that she had ordered an independent review into the illegal police searches carried out at properties allegedly linked with Roman Abramovich. Is the Deputy Chief Minister in a position to give us an update as to whether this independent review has been started, who's doing the review, when it's likely to conclude?
Sir, I'm not in a position to be able to speak about that here as a matter of legal proceedings going on, etc. But what I will say is that it is on my shoulders to take any review forward, etc. So I'd be more than happy to update in private rather than in public. But so it's not something I can speak easily about in the chamber, sir.
So supplementary, I find that answer strange because the Chief Minister was public about the fact that she was going to order an independent review. This has been reported in the media, and I'm simply asking the Deputy Chief Minister to confirm whether that operation, that investigation has started or not. I don't think that is in anything sub judice, sir, that the Minister shouldn't be able to answer. If he can't answer because he doesn't have the information, that's fine, I'll accept that and ask him to go back and find out. But would he be able to answer the first part of my question?
Sir, I have to stick by my previous answer, sir. I don't believe that's something I can speak about publicly, and therefore I don't want to endanger any legal proceedings by doing so. But I am happy because, as I say, that is on my shoulders. I take responsibility for any review that goes forward, as opposed to the Chief Minister. And so I'll happily update the member after so.
Is that something you can do?
No, it is a legitimate answer to a question for a member to say, I'm not prepared to answer that question. The consequences can only be political.
I think his statement was, I don't believe, rather than I somehow know.
Well, it's not for me to provide legal advice to the Assembly. That would be a job for the learned attorney. But I don't think that that's something that can be dealt with in this context. If it is the Minister's belief that there are reasons why he cannot answer, then that is a sufficient answer in the Assembly, it seems to me. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Is the Deputy Chief Minister able to confirm how much has been agreed to be paid out in golden handshakes as a result of the recent resignations from government?
Sir, that's not something I'm able to confirm or speak to at all. And one reason is I'm not on the States Employment Board, so I have no idea whether any payments have been made, etc. But equally, even if I was privy to that information, what I would say is that we are talking about employees of the states of Jersey, and these people are currently employed by the states of Jersey, and therefore there's a matter of confidentiality with regard to current employees of the states of Jersey, and equally there is a duty of care that the government owes to its employees. And so, sir, for those reasons, and there are many, as I've just outlined, I'm unable to answer that question, sir.
Supplemental then?
Thank you, sir. History shows that in these incidents, the truth always works its way out there somehow, and we do inevitably almost always find out the details of those golden shakes. So in the interests of the open and transparent government we've been promised, would the Deputy Chief Minister endeavour to ask the Chief Minister that when that information is possible to be made public, that it is done so very quickly?
Sir, I thank the Deputy for that suggestion, and I will indeed do that. But I think it is very important that members of this Assembly appreciate that we are talking about people who are currently employed by the States of Jersey, and therefore we should act as good employers and not divulge anything with regard to employment details within this Assembly, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. The government's organisational change policy states that the employer will ensure that employees are treated fairly, consistently and with respect in an open manner. How confident is the Deputy Chief Minister that both the performance management and organisational change policies are being applied fairly and consistently throughout all levels of the organisation?
Assuming, sir, that Deputy is speaking about the whole organisation and not any specific departments, then I have no reason to believe that the government as an employer is acting in any way contrary to the way the Deputy has suggested. But if the Deputy does have examples or instances where she believes that that is not the case, I'd be really grateful if she could bring them to my attention or the Chief Minister's attention.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. It is on public record that the former Chief Operating Officer took what was referred to as a voluntary redundancy during a consultation process. It is my understanding from being a former union representative that during a consultation process, no other member of staff has been able to leave the employment. Indeed, many members of staff have had to take other jobs. They've been redeployed to jobs on lower pay grades, up to 2 pay grades, many of whom will be taking a pay cut this year. How can the Deputy Chief Minister explain that inconsistency?
Sir, I am unable to explain that inconsistency as much as anything because, sir, as I have said already, I am not on the States Employment Board, I'm not a member of the States Employment Board, and therefore I am not in a position to oversee or understand what processes have or haven't been gone into. I suggest that the Deputy addresses her questions to the States Employment Board, sir.
Deputy Hegro.
Thank you, sir. Would the Deputy Chief Minister explain what conversations have happened within the Council of Ministers in relation to the crisis that we have in our sewerage works? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would have to ask, I'm afraid, sir, and this isn't just rebutting, if the Deputy could be a bit more open with her description of the crisis within our sewage works, sir.
It is a well-known fact, sir, that we cannot really build any further developments. Yes, it is. It's a fact that we have got a problem with our sewerage works, and at the moment, we wouldn't be able to provide further housing, and people are being stopped from actually having connections in relation to it. And I'm asking what discussions have happened within the Council of Ministers about the sewerage and drain works that we currently have.
Does that assist in clarifying?
That does, sir. Thank you.
There may be time for just the one answer, not just the one answer.
Thank you, sir. The Council of Ministers have been briefed on drainage from the Infrastructure Department, but I must admit, sir, that I would prefer to contradict the Deputy's assertions that there is this crisis and that it is not possible to build because of such a crisis. And I believe very strongly that the Infrastructure Minister is working with his department to make sure that Jersey has the infrastructure it needs. An infrastructure that I have to say has not been invested in properly by previous governments, but this government is trying to rectify that, sir, and deliver an infrastructure for this island that enables the population to live properly and enables the economy to grow properly, sir. So I don't accept the assertion by the Deputy, but if she would like more information about sewage and drainage works in the island, I believe the Infrastructure Minister will be very pleased to brief her on that.
Well, that brings the period of questions to the Chief Minister to an end, and we now move to item K. Le député Tellier a une déclaration à faire au sujet de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la francophonie. Député, Monsieur le député.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Chaque année, le mois de mars est marqué comme le mois de la francophonie. Et hier, le 20 mars, c'était la journée internationale de la francophonie. Et en tant que président de la section de Jersey de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la francophonie, je voudrais donc profiter de cette occasion de souligner l'importance de notre adhésion à cette organisation internationale et de nos liens au monde francophone. Vu l'importance historique et culturelle du français à Jersey, l'Assemblée des États de Jersey fait partie de l'APF depuis 1980. Et cette organisation internationale engage et met en œuvre des actions dans les domaines de coopération interparlementaire et du développement de la démocratie. La promotion de la francophonie, même le multilinguisme et l'enseignement du français font partie de ces objectifs. On a vu que le gouvernement actuel s'est engagé à renforcer nos liens avec le monde francophone et surtout la France, notre voisin. À cet égard, je voudrais saluer la décision récente qui permettra aux touristes français de visiter l'île en utilisant uniquement leur carte d'identité. Et pour ma part, et avec mes collègues du comité exécutif, je continuerai à promouvoir notre adhésion à l'APF et nos liens avec le monde francophone. Pendant ce mois de la francophonie, j'invite tous les membres de cette Assemblée à faire pareillement et à s'engager au renforcement de ces liens avec la France. L'APF et le monde francophone et la promotion des principes démocratiques qui nous lient. And so now in English, each year March is celebrated as a French-speaking day, or Francophonie, and the month is Month of the Francophonie. And yesterday, the 20th of March, was International Francophonie Day. As president of the Jersey branch of the Assemblée parlementaire de la francophonie, I would therefore like to take this opportunity to highlight the importance of our membership to this international organisation and our links with the French-speaking world. Given that the historical and cultural importance of French in Jersey and the States Assembly has been a member of the APF since 1980, this international organisation initiates and implements actions in the areas of interparliamentary cooperation and democratic development. The promotion of French-speaking, indeed multilingualism, and the teaching of French also forms part of its aims. We have seen the current government undertake to reinforce links with French-speaking countries and the French-speaking world, in particular our neighbour, France. In that regard, I would like to pay tribute to the recent decision that will allow French day trippers to visit the island using their identity cards. As for me, and with my colleagues of the Executive Committee, I'll continue to promote our membership of the APF, our links with the Francophone world. And during this Mois de la Francophonie, I will therefore invite all members of the Assembly to do likewise and to commit themselves to strengthening our links with France, the APF and the French-speaking world, and to the promotion of democratic ideals that bind us.
Thank you very much. There is a period now of 15 minutes in which any member can ask questions of the Deputy on the subject matter of his statement. Deputy Morel.
Merci. Et je voudrais poser la question au président de l'APF à Jersey. Pourquoi est-ce qu'il pense que la francophonie est importante pour l'île de Jersey? parce qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui pensent que oui, on parle anglais et ça suffit. Oui, pourquoi est-ce que c'est important de parler français ici à Jersey? And for other members, I was just asking, why does the minister, why does the deputy feel that French speaking is important in Jersey? Because there are many people who just think, well, we speak English now, so be it. So why is it important to be able to speak French in Jersey?
J'estime que de nos jours, on entend de plus en plus l'anglais, qui est une langue universelle presque. Mais par contre, pour Jersey, ça reste une langue très importante, non seulement linguistique, sociale, mais culturelle, historiquement. Et aussi, ça sert à nous rapprocher avec la France, parce que nos cousins, je vais dire, nos cousins et nos cousines qui habitent juste à côté, en Normandie ou plus loin, ils apprécient beaucoup Jersey et le fait qu'on n'est pas anglais. On est un peu différent, on n'est pas tout à fait français non plus, mais ils apprécient ça chez nous et il faut qu'on développe ça. I'd say in English that there is a utilitarian argument as well, sir, that is put forward, that if you have a universal language, you might as well just use that. But I think that doesn't take into account that Jersey is, well, at the base, it has been a trilingual island for many centuries, and now we're a multilingual island, and we need to celebrate all languages, including French. And if we are not protective of our history and culture, which includes French and Jériais alongside English, then we can't expect others to do that.
Question supplémentaire?
Et aussi, on pense beaucoup, si on pense au Parlement, de CPA, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Et l'APF est peut-être le voisin secondaire du CPA. Est-ce qu'il pense qu'il sera possible de rectifier cette imbalance? Inégalité, ouais, comme ça. I'm just asking, the CPA is often seen as the primary kind of international body for this assembly, but the APF we've been members of for many years, and so does he see it as useful and important to address this inequality between the two?
Oui, je suis tout à fait d'accord que moi j'ai dit pendant mon discours, quand je postulais pour ce poste, que je voulais plus de parité entre le CPA et l'APF. Et les deux organisations tout à fait sont très importantes pour notre Assemblée, pour les parlementaires, parce que ça nous donne des liens avec les deux mondes, si vous voulez, le monde anglophone, le monde francophone. It's really important, and I've said it previously when I was standing for this position, that this isn't about competition between the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and our organisation, but I want to see more parity, and the membership of the APF gives us access to a whole new francophone world, which includes countries in most continents, so not just France, but obviously beyond, and not just francophone countries either. There are many observer countries and associate members, which include 25 on top of the 56 section members. And it means we can broaden our horizons about what they do in those parliaments and in those countries.
Any other members with questions for the Deputy? You can be asked in either of the languages. Deputy Kovacs.
Thank you, sir. Can the Deputy please say what is the value provided by organizations such as the Alliance Française and La Maison de la Normandie?
I thank the Deputy for the question. It provides me with an opportunity to thank organisations like the Alliance Française, the Maison de Normandie, et de la Manche, to give it its full title, but of course Le Bihan, who I know that the External Relations team and the Chief Minister may work with more closely, who are based in Normandy, because they go over and above in our island with the support that they help with unofficially, informally often, but in putting on events in the island that simply wouldn't happen. So, you know, later on in the year, we've got something called the French Festival or Le French Festival. I know it grates with Deputy Moreau to call it that, but those kind of events are so important for the culture of the island, for tourism and for economic development as well. And we simply wouldn't be able to do those things without those organisations. And lastly, as well, you know, the teachers as well. I think it's important to thank the teachers throughout all of our schools who promote language learning generally, including French teachers.
Supplementary question, Deputy? Candidat Sambrano.
Merci, monsieur. Suite à une visite que j'ai faite il y a quelques mois au Canada, est-ce que le président croit que nous avons des leçons à apprendre au niveau de bilingue avec Canada, où il pratique le bilingue dans quelques départements de ce pays? Merci, monsieur. I should just translate. I'm just asking the President if, following a visit I made to Canada with the CPA, whether he considers that we could learn lessons from Canada with regard to their bilingual approach. Thank you, sir.
Je sais que déjà ils ont un piste de départ qui est peut-être un peu plus différent parce que déjà c'est un pays complètement bilingue. Mais je pense que nous avons un atout aussi, c'est qu'on est à la base une société, une communauté multilingue déjà, pas forcément en français et anglais, mais il y a plusieurs langues qui existent déjà dans l'île. Et ça veut dire qu'il y a beaucoup d'étudiants, par exemple, des élèves qui ont l'habitude de parler en plusieurs langues ou en deux langues. Et on pourrait utiliser ça à la base pour notre système éducatif dans le futur. I was just saying that Canada obviously have a different starting point. They're a properly bilingual country, and they have that in their statute and their legislation. So you can expect to use both languages. But Jersey's got another ace up its sleeve, is that we are a multilingual society, whether we know it or not. And we look at the fact that historically we know that half of the people in Jersey were not born in Jersey, and we've got so many languages that are spoken in our schools, or certainly as home languages as well. And that can serve as a basis for a springboard, I think, for maybe looking at our education system and looking at things like bilingual schools, immersion schools. There's something called translanguaging as well, which is, I'm not going to say it's a new phenomenon, it's something that exists in many places where you teach in a multitude of languages and you compare languages there are those much better placed than me to talk about how that works. So I think the Constable is certainly onto something about that.
Supplementary question, Constable.
Non, merci, monsieur.
Deputy Stevenson.
Thank you, sir. And can I thank the Deputy as well for providing an English translation to his statement. I think it's great to celebrate our French links, but really important actually for transparency and accessibility for all, that it's on the record in English as well. My question for him is, does he see opportunities to strengthen links with the French-speaking world through sport?
Indeed, I very much, I have had a conversation with the Assistant Minister who's got a passion and also a portfolio in sport and for sport on this subject, because there's an element of soft diplomacy that exists in any of the interactions we have when we go to conferences and seminars. And I'll give one example. So the tie I'm wearing today, I specifically chose it not because the television were coming in today, and I wanted to wear my brightest red tie, which might compete with your gown, sir, but because, and it could never do that, but because I was given this tie when I was sitting next to a Georgian rugby player, and that rugby player is an international who still plays for his country. He's involved with that. He was telling me how he would be playing around about now in Nantes. I think the World Cup's coming up and France are hosting it, and the city where they're based is going to be in Nantes, which is only a couple of hours away from Jersey. And he's also a member of Parliament for Georgia. And I must admit, I'm not a big rugby fan in the sense that I don't know a lot about it, but I like it in terms of the same way I like all sports. And I did say I'd make a point of speaking to our sports minister when I got back, because I think in the future there are certainly areas of collaboration that we could work on, you know, in all sports. So I think very much in the way that I also think there's a synergy between arts, culture and sport and economy. I think there's very much the same when it comes to languages. And I know Deputy Kovac, for example, knows about the Dance World Cup, etc.
I'm afraid, Deputy, I'm going to have to ask you to
Thank you.
speed up the answer because
I'll
there's
finish
time
there.
for perhaps one more question. Deputy Balash.
So given that the Deputy has very helpfully reminded us of the bilingualism which lies at the root of our culture and heritage, would he agree that the Minister of Education ought to be encouraged to ensure that as many children in our primary schools as possible grow up speaking the languages of our island?
Thank you, sir. I don't think there's a lot I could disagree with that statement, certainly with my APF hat on. I would simply say, maybe for two reasons. First of all, I wouldn't want to tell the Minister the best way to do that, because I think that multilingualism in general is a good thing, and having multiple languages is a good thing. And also, it's quite close to me personally with my home situation. So my wife is involved in the education department, so I declare that as an interest. But certainly, I think anything we can do as an assembly to promote French, to promote Gérié. I don't think we need to necessarily promote English because it's always there, but we want to make sure that we encourage proficiency in language generally, and also make sure that French is never lost, but only is increased. And I think we set that example as an assembly, sir.
Very much. That brings the time available to ask questions of the statement to Deputy Daddy to an end. And normally that would bring us on to public business. You have, however, you've given me notice, Deputy Kovac, that you have something you'd like to inform the Assembly about.
Thank you, sir. As per Standing Order 137.2a, I would like to announce my decision to resign from the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel, as I feel I can't continue to work in an effective manner in the current panel format. And I would like, with your permission, sir, just to say a few thank you words.
Well, if it's part of the indication to the Assembly you've resigned, yes, I don't see any difficulty, but...
Sincere thank you to the ministers and officers from across the Economic and Development Department and the organizations that are linked and accountable to the minister, and to the other ministers whose operational issues come within the scope of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel, for sharing their future plans, providing lots of interesting background information, answering any questions raised with them, and for making presentations and briefings in a professional and understandable manner over the last almost 9 months. Because of it, I am now much better informed about a variety of issues and aware of the many challenges that we all face in the future. I also appreciate the professionalism and support from scrutiny officers and the contribution that each colleague in the panel brought to the panel work. I wish them all the very best in their future endeavors to serve and meet the high level of expectations of the Jersey public. Thank you.
Resignation. Yes, Deputy, did you have something you wish to say to
Yes, sir. I'd just like to formally announce my formal resignation from the Economic and International Affairs panel as well, sir.
Very well. Well, then the Assembly has been notified of those two resignations. Obviously, steps will be taken, or not, as the case may be, presumably at the next hearing, to see if other members wish to be put forward for that panel. But that's something that will be dealt with in due course. Deputy Ward, you were saying you might like to propose members of the panel to which you've been elected.
Yes, sir, but I prefer that if I could sort of join in a little and announce my resignation.
Oh, yes. You are going to announce your resignation.
I'd like to announce my resignation from the Environment, Housing, Infrastructure panel and Corporate Services panel, purely because of workload. I have informed both chairs of the panel, and I'd like to thank all the members of those panels. It's been very enjoyable, and particularly the officers. And I'd like to reassure publicly, it wasn't simply because I've now had my tour of the sewage works and the highlight has been and gone. So that's quite important. And so if I can indulge, I would like to, should I announce members of the panel?
Well, if you've now communicated your resignation and
yes.
you'd like the Assembly to deal with election of your...
yes.
No, that's all right. I thought you were going to make a speech about your resignation.
No, absolutely not, no.
Which
the joke about sewage works is enough, sir.
But no, it seems to me that it was possible we would have dealt with it this morning. We've afforded Deputy Ward an opportunity, and therefore if you wish to deal with the election of members of the panel to which you have been elected as chair, well then I don't see any difficulty at this point.
If I can indulge in that, so is that?
Yes, please do.
So I nominate members. So I'd like to nominate the following members: Deputy Barbara Ward, Deputy Beatrice Poiret, Deputy Andy Howe, Deputy Karina Alves, and the Constable of St Clement. Thank you, sir.
That's 5. Therefore, you are entitled to nominate 5, I think. Are those nominations seconded? Yes, sir. Are there any other nominations for membership of the panel? If there are no other nominations for membership of the panel, then Deputies Barbara Ward, Deputy Poiret, Deputy Howell, the Constable of St Clement, and Deputy Alves are elected to the panel. No, I think we now do actually come on to public business, and that's the, we now come to the draft sanctions and asset freezing amendment number 3, Jersey Law P4, lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services. The main respondent will be the Chair of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel, T. Scott, and I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Sanctions and Asset Freezing Amendment number 3, Jersey Law 2000, a law to amend further the Sanctions and Asset Freezing Jersey Law 2019. The States, subject to the sanction of His Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Yes, who is standing for the...
Yes,
Yes.
I'm standing in for the Minister, if that's
Of course,
acceptable,
yes.
so as the Assistant Minister for this period. So this law amends the sanctions and asset freezing law that we refer to as SAFL. It is to improve its compliance with current international standards set by the Financial Action Task Force, and there are a number of changes in Part 2 and 3 which do that. It also removes the power to implement EU sanctions provisions by ministerial order, and that's in Part 1. The sanctions law, together with the sanctions and asset freezing implementation of external sanctions Jersey Order 2021, are the island's key pieces of sanctions legislation under which all United Nations and autonomous UK sanctions are implemented. I'll start with the shortened version there, if I may, sir, in regard to the principles. I'm grateful to the work of the scrutiny panel, who undertook a very short consultation. The department had not, because of pressures of time, been able to do that, and I think that the scrutiny panel's comments, and I hope members find them very useful and helpful in regard to these amendments. And I know that were the Minister here, he would undertake to ensure, where at all possible, and we shouldn't be in this situation again, that he would, on this type of amendment, deal with consultation in a more formal manner, but he's grateful to the scrutiny panel for the work that they've undertaken. So I propose these amendments, and I'll seek to answer any questions and give a much fuller roundup if members wish for, in summing up. Thank you, sir.
So you propose the principles, Minister. Are the principles seconded?
Sir.
Does any member wish to speak on the principles? No member wishes to speak on the principles, and I close the debate. All those in favour of adopting the principles kindly show. Those against? The principles are adopted. Deputy Scott, does your panel wish to call this matter in?
No, sir.
Very well. We move then to second reading. How do you wish to propose in second reading, Minister?
I'll propose it en bloc, and as I said, sir, Part 1 removes the power to implement EU sanctions provisions by ministerial order. Part 2 and 3 provide amendments to the SAFL law to allow compliance with the Financial Action Task Force purposes and to provide greater reporting abilities. They also provide amendments to the extraterritorial extent, which if members have read, I think they will see as perfectly reasonable. As I've said, sir, I will seek to endeavour to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Are the articles seconded for second reading?
Sir.
Does any member wish to speak on the articles or any of them in second reading? No member wishes to speak? And I close the debate. Those in favour of adopting...
May I call for the appel, sir?
The appel is called for. I invite members to return to their seats. The vote is on the adoption of the articles in second reading, and I ask the greffier to open the voting. If members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, then I ask the greffier to close the voting. The articles have been adopted in second reading, 43 votes pour, no votes contre, no abstentions. Do you propose the articles in third reading?
If I may, sir, thank you.
Are the articles seconded for third reading?
Sir.
Does any member wish to speak on the adoption of this law in third reading? No member wishes to speak? Then I close the debate. All those in favour of adopting the law in third reading, kindly show. Those against? The law is adopted in third reading. That concludes the public business, and we move now to the arrangement for future business, and I invite the Chair of PPC to propose that arrangement for future meetings. Vanitar.
Thank you, sir. The arrangement of public business, currently there are only 3 items on the order paper for the next sitting on April the 18th, and that's the draft endangered species sites amendment Jersey law, Channel Islands lottery distribution of proceeds, and land transaction under Standing Order 1683, Andium Homes Limited site, Kensington Place, sale to the public, deferral of approval. The sitting should take no longer than 2 days. However, please ensure that you keep the rest of the week as continuation days in case they are needed. And Deputy David Waugh, the Minister of Housing, has asked for an in-committee debate at the next Assembly. And I ask for Deputy Waugh to address the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, sir.
So we won't propose the adoption of public business until we know what the Deputy is going to ask of the Assembly. Right, please carry on.
So I've referred today to the white paper. I'd like to request an in-committee debate on housing legislation for the first sitting after the Easter recess. I hope the Assembly accepts that.
So that will be at the next sitting, which will be the 18th of April. Yes. Do you wish to offer any further explanation? I mean, presumably this awaits the coming of a white paper before there's going to be a debate. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And we're presenting the white paper to our scrutiny committee. I believe it's next week. I think we've made arrangements to show that to them, and we'll be having some meetings with members as well over the coming weeks ahead of this debate.
Very well. So you're proposing that there's an in-committee debate on housing legislation?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's to do with the residential tenancy bill, sir.
Well, is it on? I mean, is it specifically on the residential tenancy law?
Correct.
Right. So an in-committee debate on the residential tenancy law for the sitting starting the 18th of April. Is that your proposition?
Yes, please.
And is that seconded?
Sir.
Does any member wish to speak? Deputy Sutherland.
Yes, sir. Just briefly, but could we have some reason as to why this is in committee debate? Because it seems to me it's an unusual step to take, and I don't see that the topic is that important that we should actually give up our right to vote on something. Because an in-committee debate has no vote. So why is the Minister proposing that approach when we've rarely seen such an approach before?
If I can assist members simply with information relating to in-committee debates, obviously an in-committee debate, as the Deputy has quite rightly says, is not put to the vote. There's no proposition on which to vote. And members are in a position to speak on more than one occasion. I would, as presiding officer, set a time limit for the in-committee debate, but I will consider that later on. Yes, Deputy Ward.
So thank you. I would just ask if, making law and legislation, which is the Minister's role, which can then go to scrutiny and then come back to the Assembly when finalised. If we're going to sit and talk about that with no vote and just have a discussion shop in public, so I would ask the Minister to give some really clear guidance on his intentions and his ideas for this white paper, some real clarity on what we are, in order to guide this in-committee debate. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with what is effectively a very strange situation, a talking shop around a possible piece of legislation. I think we had a similar thing with the population, and I don't know what constructively came out of that. And we're using our time. And I would say to the Minister, why is it you cannot develop the white paper from everything you've seen, and it is blatantly obvious, sir, to people living on this island? Bring that to scrutiny, bring that to the Assembly, and let's talk about something that we can vote on, as opposed to just a simple 3 or 4 hour talking shop, which has no guarantee of achieving anything at the end. I hate to appear cynical, but there are people out there who need action now, and another afternoon of us just talking about it in this Assembly is not going to go down well. Thank you, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak on the proposition that there is an in-committee debate on the 18th on the residential tenancy law? Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. And at risk of speaking for the Minister, but he please, Housing Minister, please contradict me where you feel it's appropriate. But I believe that the Minister is suggesting this precisely because the Minister knows that this is an important set of laws, which he knows that particularly Deputy Ward and his colleagues in the Reform Party are particularly interested in this law. And so he wants to make sure he gets it right, and therefore wants to consult with the States Assembly first. That, I believe, is why he's doing this. But I do ask him to contradict me if I've got that wrong. But he knows he doesn't want to go out there and bring back something which will face fierce resistance. He'd prefer to go back and bring back something which will be acceptable to those in this Assembly who feel it's very important. I believe that's why. So I believe this all comes from a point of very good intention, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak on this proposition? Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has on many occasions referred to a white paper, and he said that it will be presented to scrutiny next week. I'm not sure if I heard him say that this will become a public document in time for that debate, and with us having had enough time as members to digest it before taking part in a debate on it. So I'd be interested to know that. So I might also say I have been invited to come and speak to his officers about the contents of this, but he says it's ready to present to scrutiny next week, which does make that meeting feel like somewhat of a fait accompli if it's already been written before asking for my input on it. I may say whether the Assembly considers it a worthwhile exercise to have a debate without a conclusion at the end of it is one thing, but just to inform the Assembly, I can assure them there'll be an opportunity to have a debate and a say and a vote on something in short order that won't necessarily involve the Minister.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say how much I appreciated the Minister for External Relations having had an in-committee debate of the common external policy, which in fact my panel, the former version of my panel, the Economics and International Affairs panel, had actually recommended. So I believe that it's a collaborative approach and can actually provide useful discussion. So I thank the Minister for Housing for thinking in this way.
Does any other member wish to speak on this proposition? No other member wishes to speak? I close the debate and call upon the Minister to respond.
Thank you, sir. The purpose of the in-committee debate has been the issue around getting up-to-date legislation through this Assembly. And I've experienced some rather interesting moments in my first 6 months in government. And what I want to do is there is as has been highlighted, there's a huge amount of complexity in the housing laws, and which go back to 1946. What I want to do is I want to bring forward ideas around a fit-for-purpose piece of legislation which we can bring to the Assembly at the end of this year. I think it's really valuable that the Assembly has the opportunity to have some input into the ideas that we are putting forward in that white paper. I do not want to be in a position, as I've found myself to date, whereby nobody quite understands what the debate's about, what's going on, and all the rest of it. So I'm very, very keen that we have a debate which is informed. Deputy Mezek, I have to assure you your input will be valuable this week. So only some headlines have been written, so you do have some value. So I'm actually quite disappointed to have this kind of response because, you know, you're super keen on housing issues and all those issues around supporting tenants.
Deputy, that's the third time you've referred to...
Sorry, sir. I apologize. The Deputy, I apologise. But I'm disappointed with the Deputy's response because the reality is we all want to achieve a better outcome for tenants and landlords in this island. And the whole point of a fit-for-purpose law is that we better the people of this island. So that's why I'm bringing this to this Assembly for further debate and more consultation.
You call for the appellate.
Sir, I did ask for a reason why the Minister should bring this proposition. I have heard no reason.
Will you give way for a point of clarification, I think was the
no, sir.
action from Deputy Southern? Sorry?
No, sir.
Right, there we are. Then do you call for the appel?
Call for the appel.
Very well. Invite members to return to their seats. The vote is on whether or not the States will have an in-committee debate on the residential tenancy law at the sitting commencing the 18th of April, the first sitting after Easter, and ask the greffier to open the voting. Members have had the opportunity of casting their votes. Then I ask the greffier to close the voting. The proposition has been adopted. 31 votes pour, 13 votes contre, no abstentions.
Could I ask for who voted contre, please?
Yes.
Those members voting contre, the Connétable of St Brelard, Deputy Southern, Tadier, Rob Ward, Alves, Farnham, Mezek, Balash, Coles, Porre, Catherine Curtis, Eltham and Kovac.
Very well. We now turn to... So, in the light of the Assembly's decision for the 18th Connétable, do you propose the public business in the way you've described with the addition of the in-committee
Yes,
debate?
please, sir. Yes, I do propose the arrangement of business, including the in-committee debate. Thank you.
Very well. Members approve the conduct of business as set out by the Chair of PPC? Very well. In which case that concludes the business of the Assembly and we stand adjourned until the 18th of April.